further redactions are happening as we speak of what they've already put out. So that means that the DOJ and the FBI are still scrubbing these files even after their release. And I want to just be clear, the American taxpayer is paying for this, right? We are paying for tens of millions of dollars to hide the evidence of our billionaire president's involvement in this and his rich and important friends who have clearly paid to get their names out of this as well. We are paying to help them get away with this. Hello, and welcome to the PoliticsGirl podcast. I'm your host, Lee McGowan. Let's get into it. Well, we were supposed to have Mark Elias on today, but because the Epstein files were not really released on Friday as they were supposed to be, I thought that's really what we should be talking about today. So brilliant Mark will be joining us at the top of the new year to talk about how to save democracy in 26. And today we'll be talking to my friend, Tara Palmeri. Tara is a former White House correspondent for ABC News, where she covered the first Trump administration, was the chief national correspondent for Politico during the Biden administration, and has been a political analyst for CNBC, CBS, and CNN. But I'm having her on today because she hosted two acclaimed podcasts on Jeffrey Epstein called Broken, Jeffrey Epstein, and Power, the Maxwells. Tara is one of those old school journalists who is both feared and fearless. Her work is deeply sourced, and she stands outside of mainstream media's drama to really bring us the truth. She has also become friends with the Epstein survivors, particularly Virginia Giuffre, before her death, and is privy to details of the case that weren't even in Virginia's book. So without further ado, please welcome my guest, American journalist, host of the Tara Palmeri Show on YouTube, and author of the Red Letter newsletter, Tara Palmeri. Welcome, Tara.
Thanks for having me. It's so exciting to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. I mean, you have probably against your better judgment become an expert on everything Epstein. And as you and I discussed when we were both recently on CNN together, it's exhausting, right? It's exhausting to be in this repulsive narrative all the time. You can't really escape from it. So I'm very grateful that you have taken the time to come on today and really fill people in on the things that they need to know as this nightmare seemingly continues.
Yeah. So, I mean, I started covering the Epstein story around the time that he died. I was brought into a podcast that Julie K. Brown, the Miami Herald journalist who rebroke the story again by exposing the injustice in the Department of Justice with the sweetheart deal. She was the executive producer on it. It's called Broken, Jeffrey Epstein. You can still listen to it. And in the second season, I travel around the country with Virginia Giuffre, who is one of his most prominent survivors. You know, she accused Prince Andrew of rape and was awarded a settlement by the Crown. And it was a really historic thing. I have been following this story for a really long time. I've always been really incensed by the injustice. I don't see this from a political lens, and it really bothers me how much it is becoming political. It's just such a disservice to the survivors who are just collateral damage in all of it. I've just gotten to know the survivors so well. Virginia, another survivor, Marika, who I worked really closely with, Jane Doe 1, amazing woman. I mean, there are just so many of them that I got to know through this story. And like, I really became inspired by them and their strength and their ability to speak up about this horrible thing that happened to them. And you know, after 3 decades of never getting justice, they're still ready and willing to fight. And it's sad to me that like, this is supposed to be, you know, the moment, the final act in this horror where they get their justice, right? Like this is supposed to be the moment when government is brought to its knees. We're supposed to get all the secrets. We're supposed to know the truth. And again, they are being disregarded. And it's all about politics and power.
Yeah, politics and power. I mean, at this point, we know that there's just hundreds, if not thousands of women that have gone through this horror. And And it goes well beyond Jeffrey Epstein, the man himself, right? Like, I know some of the details, but most people only know the rumors or the bits and pieces that the media allows us to have. So if you don't mind, I'd love to start by just backing it up and giving people some context right off the top. You know, what is it that you think people should know about Jeffrey Epstein, who he is, what he and Ghislaine Maxwell did, how it relates to our president, and, you know, obviously bigwigs around the world. And finally, why it is important that people understand this case.
One thing I do want to point out, though, you said hundreds of women. Actually, the FBI estimated 1,000 victims. Yeah. So And that's probably a conservative number, by the way, which shows you that this might have been the largest sex trafficking operation of our time. And it was only made possible through the help of major banks, heads of institutions, law enforcement by not pursuing him the many times they had the chance to, politicians who made phone calls for him to try to stop this prosecution that ended in a sweetheart deal. It was made possible because he was protected because of his wealth and his power. I was reading a New York Times piece this weekend about how he made money. And it's fascinating. You know, like he basically conned a ton of really wealthy people into thinking that he could either A, find their missing money as like some sort of financial bounty hunter, B, help them with their prenups or their wills, saying that you can't trust the people around you can trust me, or doing other shady deals in which he invests in funds, takes a percentage of it. The funds don't always work out. I mean, one of the first criminal activities that we know of that he got involved with was a $300 million Ponzi scheme with Stephen Hoffenberg.
You're already deeper than most people know. I'm going to stop you for a second because I just want to say, I'm going to walk you through something and you tell me if I'm wrong. Okay. So like, is it fair for me to say that we are looking at a multi-decade, multi-country, multi-government human trafficking enterprise?
Absolutely.
Okay. So how Epstein starts out, he's this guy who doesn't finish college. He gets a job teaching at this elite East Coast boarding school.
It's just a regular school.
A regular school.
Not to be nitpicky about the details.
I want to know.
But
This
it
is what
is
I'm
an
telling
elite
you.
school. Like Anderson Cooper went there.
Okay, so he gets this job at Dalton at this elite school. I think it was actually Bill Barr's dad who hired him, who brought him in for that job.
It was, yes, it was. He was the headmaster.
So then he moves from teaching to working at Bear Stearns, and then he's managing people's money. Like you said, like, how does he get this job, right? How does he have access to these really rich people? He didn't have a degree, let alone an MBA. Why would he be offered these positions? Like, to me, starting right there on its own, none of that makes sense unless he wasn't hired to be a teacher. He wasn't hired to be a money manager. I mean, he did the jobs, but it feels like he was kind of this willing middleman for bigger people who wanted bigger things. Does any of that make sense to you?
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that actually he was such a bad teacher and he was like known for pursuing some of the students, the younger female students, that he was actually going to be let go if he didn't get this job at I think it was Bear Stearns. Yeah. Ace Greenberg. Yeah. Ace Greenberg was a parent of one of the teachers at Dalton and thought that he was a math wizard and he deserved something better than just being a school teacher. But, you know, he had this way of charming really powerful people and getting them to do what he wanted. And in the case of Ace Greenberg, the way he was able to convince him to hire him without an actual degree was that he was like, I'm a poor kid from Coney Island, but I'm hungry. I desperately want to be rich, just like you. Give me a shot and I promise I won't let you down. And that's a really compelling thing. Plus, he clearly had some talent in terms of being a mathematician. And he had charm. And like in these financial jobs, it's really important to be charming. You can't just be a math wizard.
You have to be able to schmooze the parties. You have to be able to schmooze the clients. Like a lot of these people who are math geniuses don't actually do as well because they can't do the party part. They can't do the socializing part.
Right.
I mean, it's funny because it's interesting to hear you say that he's good at math because I've heard over the years, and again, I'm going to hit you up with a lot of rumors, that Jeffrey Epstein himself is not really that smart. In many ways, he's a useful idiot for a lot of smarter people. Like Ghislaine Maxwell, in many ways, was really the mastermind, or maybe under the tutelage of her father or other forces. But Jeffrey was the charming one, and he was the one open to playing around with all the girls. He was willing to do whatever needed to be done to keep the lifestyle and the power structure in play. Am I correct in thinking that Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was really well connected in this situation, even through organizations like Mossad, which for most people, if you don't know what Mossad is the Israeli equivalent of the CIA?
It's interesting. I actually did a 6-part series on Ghislaine Maxwell's family called Power the Maxwells and about Ghislaine. And a lot of it is about Robert because most people don't know this, but he was a larger than life figure. He was the contemporary to Rupert Murdoch at the time, owned so many publications across the world. They bid on properties together. He owned the New York Daily News, the Mirror. It's a paper in the UK, very influential, MTV Europe, Peregrine Press. so many. Macmillan. At one point, he was a member of parliament. He was a very influential person. And yes, he did know Jeffrey Epstein through Ace Greenberg. And the truth about Jeffrey Epstein is he wasn't dumb. You have to have a certain level of, you could say, street smarts to con people.
Like Trump's street smarts, that kind of level. Yeah.
I think he's smarter than Trump. I think he was probably smarter than Trump. Trump had $100 million out of the bank, like being born with a silver spoon from his father. Jeffrey Epstein came from nothing. And so he conned his way into that. And the thing that fascinates me is how he got away with it for so long, and that so many of these very wealthy people didn't just put him on a blacklist of like, do not work with this guy, you will get bilked. But perhaps they were embarrassed by the fact that they were scammed from him and they didn't want to talk about it. That is fascinating to me, that they wouldn't have just, because I think in like normal world, if, as a journalist, it's like, if you have a bad reputation as a journalist, you will have problems getting jobs, you'll have problems doing interviews, you'll have problems with everything, in any profession. But for some reason, he was able to con people and lose their money for the first part of his career until he had amassed enough that he was able to get away with it, which is where the blackmail thing comes in. The blackmail part is what I believe helped him sustain the con for so long, is that he was creating a lifestyle in which young girls were trafficked to men. And that allowed him to continue to steal their money without any repercussion, because he knew that there was a social penalty for them if they exposed what they knew about Jeffrey Epstein. So he really, he almost had like KGB style tactics. He really was quite sophisticated in that way. I don't think Ghislaine Maxwell was some sort of mastermind. I think Ghislaine Maxwell was desperate for money. Her father died. Robert Maxwell fell off the side of the boat mysteriously, possibly connected to Mossad, because he may have been compromised by the fact that he stole all the pensioners' money from the Mirror Group, and it was becoming revealed. So he was obviously a con artist himself, and she needed money. And so she moves to New York, and that is where she meets Jeffrey. Well, she met Jeffrey Epstein before that when her father was still alive, but she moves to New York and starts, quote unquote, dating Jeffrey Epstein. But really it's more about, grooming and procuring women. And she's able to keep living the lifestyle that she was accustomed to under daddy, but with Jeffrey Epstein footing the bill. Now, it wasn't for free. She wasn't just his girlfriend. She had to find girls for him. And it's a disgusting story. And she was craven in her desire for wealth and her desire to continue to live a life of luxury. But she also offered Jeffrey Epstein things that he didn't have. She taught him how to mingle in upper class, society, how to say the right things, how to dress the right way. She cleaned up someone who was a kid from Coney Island. And she had a Rolodex unlike anyone else because her father was, like I say, an equal to Rupert Murdoch. She was like an Elizabeth Murdoch. She had access to Prince Andrew. She had access to Bill Clinton. She had access to various important people, including Donald Trump, who she met when she was very young through her father, who used to hang out with Donald Trump on his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine. So, this was her world, and Jeffrey desperately wanted to be a part of that. So she was the perfect person to give him entree into that world. And not only that, when he was trying to recruit these young girls, they're not going to show up at a 50-year-old man's house on their own. But if a woman who's posh, has a cute little dog named G-Max, is telling them they're wonderful and they're beautiful and seducing them, because she was also a seducer herself, can get them into his house, that certainly helps as well. So they needed each other to pull this off.
That's why it's so sickening that they have moved Ghislaine from a high security prison to where she is now in like a club fed, where she has like, her own meals, and she's doing exercise, and she's like, she can learn whatever she wants, and she might get a pardon. Is that she was so deeply involved in this. When I was growing up, when I was 15, two 15-year-old girls were tortured and raped and murdered by a man named Paul Bernardo. And it was a huge, huge crime in Canada at the time. And it was the same age I was at the time. But the only reason he was able to get away with it was because his wife was the one finding the girls, and the girls would trust the woman, and the girls would go with the woman. The first victim was the wife's sister. So it was like this heinous crime. And then she ended up, having a very reduced sentence. She ended up getting out of jail, getting married, moving to the Caribbean, having children. And everyone that knows that story in Canada, the Bernardo story, is sickened by it, because we know that without her, there would be no him. And I think with this Ghislaine Maxwell thing, it's the same thing. And I think if you think that it's bigger than just two people and their, desire for money, that there were other things involved. I really do think it was a massive blackmail operation. And that is one of the things that I hope we will have come out. How many people were involved? How many organizations? How many levels of government? Because at the very least, we know this is bigger than one man trafficking young girls. And I think that's why so many people are so interested in the Epstein files. So let's back up to 2008, let's say. Tell me why we didn't just catch and stop Epstein when he was charged with sex trafficking minors in Florida in 2008. Why did this bullshit continue? Okay, I'm really excited to be talking about this because I have become obsessed with OneSkin's lip treatment. OneSkin is known for its cult favorites like OS1 Body, OS1 Face, and OS1 Eye. But they just came out with an OS1 Lip Restore mask that is really making a difference to my face. This is a deeply hydrating overnight lip mask to restore smoother, fuller, healthier lips. It stimulates collagen and elastin production. 98% of the people agreed that their lips stayed hydrated for 8+ hours, and 81% saw softening of wrinkles around the lips. That's me. I'm in that 81%. I actually use it morning and night. I literally put it all the way outside of my lips as a treatment, and I'm telling you, I have noticed a difference in those little lines around my mouth. It's dermatologist tested, fragrance free, and safe for sensitive skin. In fact, I just ordered more because I love it so much. The OS1 peptide is the core of the OneSkin product. It's the first ingredient proven to target sentient cells, the root cause of wrinkles, crepiness, and loss of elasticity, which are all key signs of aging. And the results have now been validated in 5 different clinical studies. The company was founded by an all-woman team of longevity scientists with PhDs in stem cell biology, skin regeneration, and tissue engineering. OneSkin also just launched their limited holiday sets, including the Nightly Rewind gift set, which includes the lip mask I use, but also their best-selling face moisturizer and a sculpting tool. I actually use a sculpting tool myself, and I think it actually makes a real difference. So I would highly recommend you try this Nightly Rewind gift set. You get the product I have, plus you get to try the night cream as well. At the end of the day, it all works while you sleep, renewing your skin at the cellular level for stronger, smoother, more youthful looking complexion. And for a limited time, you can try OneSkin for 15% off by using the code PoliticsGirl at oneskin.co/PoliticsGirl. And after you purchase, they're going to ask you how you heard about them. Please support the show and tell them that we sent you. oneskin.co/PoliticsGirl. Have you ever tried a tinted moisturizer? I have to use foundation when I do these shows, but when I'm not doing the show, I often use a tinted moisturizer because I find that too much makeup in real life makes me look older. A terrific one you might want to try are the products coming out of Jones Road Beauty. If you hate that caked on heavy makeup look, or you find that your makeup takes too long to apply every day, or you're using too many products, then maybe now is the time to try something new and get yourself a little gift for the holidays. Now is the perfect time to try Jones Road Beauty because they have 5 limited edition kits. The collection is a trio of holiday shades and products in the cutest packaging. The products look and feel natural, almost like you're not wearing makeup at all. Their best-selling Miracle Balm is the ultimate makeup skincare hybrid that just gives you a natural glow. You can use it as a tint, a blush, a bronzer, or you can use it as a highlighter on your lips. You can replace almost all of the products in your makeup bag, and it's great for taking makeup on the go. Rushing somewhere during the holidays, you can look far more pulled together in minutes. This holiday season, simplify your routine with makeup that is clean, strategic, and multifunctional. And don't miss out on those limited edition holiday sets. They won't be here for long, and once they're gone, they're gone. Also, as a treat for our listeners, you will get a free cool gloss on your first purchase when you use the code PoliticsGirl at checkout. Just head to jonesroadbeauty.com and use the code PoliticsGirl at checkout. And after you purchase, if they ask you where you heard about them, please support the show and tell them that we sent you. Tell me why we didn't just catch and stop Epstein when he was charged with sex trafficking minors in Florida in 2008. Why did this bullshit continue?
Can I just, before I get into that, I just want to make one comment based on what you said. So according to Ghislaine Maxwell's recent habeas petition.
What is a habeas petition?
It's a petition to try to get out of jail.
Okay.
So she said one of the plaintiffs that sued her, I have to assume, I think I know who this plaintiff is, settled with 25 men. 25 men. Okay. So just think about that when everyone's like, it was just Jeffrey, right? It's like, no, that is not what happened. So consider that for a minute. Now let's rewind to 2008. That's when he actually goes to jail. But this was a case that started, and that's county jail, not prison, where he belonged, for 13 months with an ankle bracelet half the time and the ability to abuse women while he was under house arrest because he was able to go to his office and do it.
Just so people are clear, he served 13 months of an 18 months county jail sentence. He pleaded guilty to 2 state prosecution charges, but he was given work release privileges, which allowed him to leave jail up to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and work from his Palm Beach house and his office. And the whole thing was overseen by this guy named Alexander, which people call Alex Acosta, who went on to become the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida and then served as Trump's labor secretary before having to leave because this stuff started to come out.
Right. This started in 2004, and it started as a state case. And he had a very powerful lawyer behind him. His name is Alan Dershowitz, who was also friendly with Bill Clinton at the time. He was a prominent Democratic lawyer, and he was able to convince the prosecutors in Palm Beach, a man named Barry Krischer, who was the state attorney at the time. And he convinced him basically not to indict. I looked through some of the grand jury files and did some of the reporting, and I called around. I knocked on doorbells of people that were involved and talked to some of the people. And Alan Dershowitz pulled up MySpace pages of these girls and made them seem like they were lustful little nymphs that were teenagers that wanted to have a sexual relationship with a 50-year-old wealthy man. And, said that they smoked pot, had boyfriends, did this or that. And then, the deputy state attorney who was handling this, the deputy prosecutor, she literally said to the grand jury, there are no victims here.
Which is the same thing Pam Bondi is saying. She's saying, oh, we've got thousands of victims, but no Johns, right? Like she's saying that now.
It was really horrible. And the Palm Beach Chief of Police, Michael Ryder, put together a really substantial case. So did the detective Burkari. I have heard and listened to the transcripts. I played one of them when Megyn Kelly suggested that, these were just barely legal girls. And I wanted people to hear that. One of them called his penis a wee-wee. She was so young. She was 14 years old. And the way they talk, the sound of their voices, I think it's pretty unmistakable, the fact that these were children. So they say there are no victims here. They dropped the case. To Ryder, he's like, this is not good enough. I'm furious. This is horrible. Parents are coming in. They're complaining. This is insane. So he goes to Alex Acosta, who was the U.S. attorney at the time in Southern Florida. And he said, we got to do something about this case. So the case gets kicked over to the state attorney. U.S. attorney is what they're called. It's kind of confusing. The state attorney is actually the attorney for the county of Palm Beach. The U.S. attorney is actually for the state. So he is the U.S. attorney, Alex Acosta. He deals with federal law, and he argues that this was actually a federal case because these girls were trafficked across state lines. And this woman named Maria Villafana, she's a prosecutor there. She worked on this case very diligently. She really worked on it for a long time. She had, I think, an 80-page prosecution memo, tons of depositions. She convinced Jane Doe 1, a lot of reluctant girls who actually had their lawyers paid for by Jeffrey Epstein. And Jeffrey was telling them, you're prostitutes. You're lucky that I am giving you the money and the lawyers to defend yourselves because you're in the wrong here. And these girls are so young, they don't even know any better. So they're like, oh, you're so great, Jeffrey. Thank you for covering me. I'm the prostitute here. It's insanity. But she managed to put together an amazing case, almost putting together a money laundering case. But here's the thing. Jeffrey was so rich that he could hire the best lawyers and have people make phone calls at the highest levels of power. This went all the way up to the attorney general's office during the Bush administration, by the way. So Alan Dershowitz, hotshot lawyer, able to convince Democrat Barry Krischer, the state attorney, not to indict. Then you have Ken Starr, who's a hotshot. Obviously, everyone knows who he is.
It's like a who's who. This case is like a who's who. Alan Dershowitz, Ken Starr.
He could afford it. He could afford it. And so he convinces Alex Acosta, who sees Ken Starr as his idol, to also not prosecute and just do a sweetheart deal. Here's the rub, though. They do this sweetheart deal, 13 months. They purposely don't tell the victims about the deal. According to the Crime Victims' Rights Act, you have to tell the victims what the sentencing deal is, what they plead guilty to. And it's such a crazy non-prosecution agreement. All co-conspirators, named and unnamed, could never be prosecuted. That's insanity. And you have to understand, like, for a massive sex trafficking operation, that requires a lot of people, right? Moving people across country. And then also just the idea of like other Johns. So this is an unheard of non-prosecution agreement. The girls don't know anything about it. They realize that, wait, this isn't right. Something happened. The Brad Edwards, the lawyer, realizes this and he demands information about it. And it was too late. They're like, it's done. Sorry, it's too late. Marie Villafana says she really regrets not pushing back harder. You know, there are times that I get like angry about it and I'm like, you should have done more. But then there are times that I'm like, was it out of her hands? You know, and I mean, obviously Alex Acosta is 100% in the wrong here. Then the case is kicked back to the state and he pleads guilty to procuring a minor for prostitution, which is like that's even just a disgusting charge. I mean, like, as if a minor can be a prostitute. And so it's just, it's a horrible, horrible, unheard of sweetheart deal. And yeah, it was made possible by a lot of money, a lot of connections, and wooing these men, Barry Krischer, the state attorney, and Alex Acosta, the U.S. attorney, with hotshot lawyers. I do think, though, that Jeffrey Epstein, because he was helpful to U.S. intelligence during the Bear Stearns case, and according to Vicky Ward's reporting and Stephen Hoffenberg, the Ponzi scheme case that he helped prosecutors with, that because obviously he got off and his partner went to jail forever, that he may have been seen as a sort of Whitey Bulger type where, you know, he was seen as more valuable as an asset, as an intelligence asset.
I think he was an intelligence asset. I think he was an intelligence asset from the beginning. I don't think he was just a, you know, like a helpful guy in the world of politics and government and finances. I think he was an actual asset, whether it was of the CIA or Mossad. I mean, that's what I personally think. But I think that the bottom line here is the victims. The victims have been maligned and undermined and victimized again and again by the lack of transparency and accountability and justice. And I think that's why it's such a kick in the face after everything has been done. And they have worked so hard to have, you know, the original deal from 2008 invalidated, from their claims that go all the way back to the 90s that were ignored, that the current Justice Department has blocked these files from coming to light after they campaigned on releasing them, right? Trump's Department of Justice under Pam Bondi and Trump's personal lawyer, Todd Blanche, you know, they just failed to comply with what was basically a unanimous congressional law to release all the files on Friday, December 19th. So this pathetic release of the Epstein Transparency Act, to me, and let me know what you think, it feels like a direct challenge for Congress to call their bluff. What do you think is going on here? Because what they released is not what they are supposed to release, and they are clearly not complying with the law. Okay, so the holidays are in full swing, and we've got everything from celebrations and gatherings to cozy nights in. Our family keeps going to the frickin' hospital for the holidays. But with all the chaos that comes along with this season, you know what doesn't stop? Laundry. Laundry just keeps piling up no matter how busy you are. Enter the Laundry Sauce Signature and Essentials package. From fresh and vibrant to warm and indulgent, these packages deliver the complete laundry sauce experience. Premium detergent pods, scent boosters, dryer sheets, all designed to infuse your laundry with high-end fragrance, fight stains, and make every load feel like an elevated experience. And it does make it feel like an elevated experience. I know you guys have heard me talk and rave about laundry sauce before, and I know that I'm talking about laundry detergent, but this stuff isn't just laundry detergent. It's like way cooler than that. I am currently going back and forth between Siberian pine and my very favorite Indonesian patchouli, but we also just added in Himalayan cashmere for the holidays, which is their first ever hypoallergenic fragrance, created to be gentle even on the most sensitive skin. When the winter comes, you kind of want to switch up the scent game a bit. These pre-measured pods come in beautiful boxes that actually look nice on my shelf and not like those big plastic bottles. And laundry sauce doesn't just smell incredible. They are engineered for performance. It's an upgrade to your entire laundry routine. And don't just take my word for it. Laundry Sauce offers a full money-back guarantee, so if you don't get better smelling, cleaner laundry, you will get a full refund, no questions asked. For a limited time, our listeners will get 20% off their entire order when they use the code PoliticsGirl20 at laundrysauce.com. That's 20% off at laundrysauce.com with the promo code PoliticsGirl20. After you check out, they're going to ask you where you heard about them, so don't forget to drop our name. Trust me, your laundry has never smelled this good. You are not sending this baby back. Okay, so you need a last-minute great gift? I want you to look at true classics. The other day, Sean and I both left the house in the same, albeit 2 different sized, true classic black crew neck sweatshirt. We were twinning and we didn't even bother to change because we both looked good and we were both comfortable. True Classics started with the very simple mission to bring premium, comfortable clothing to everyone. They felt that looking and feeling great shouldn't have to come with a designer price tag. We're talking about classic crew neck t-shirts, comfortable jeans, Henleys, all without that ridiculous price that we are seeing in the stores now. Sean loves the True Classic t-shirts and wears them all the time. And this is a guy that loves James Pierce t-shirts and has many. There is a reason True Classic has sold over 25 million shirts to more than 5 million people and earned more than 200,000 5-star reviews. It's not just about great fit and fabric. It's about helping you show up every day looking and feeling comfortable while still being pulled together and confident and not going into debt. The clothes look good, they feel great. They are, like their name, true classics. You get that polished look without sacrificing comfort or blowing your entire holiday budget. So maybe skip the stress and the overpriced designer stuff and try giving True Classic. You can find them at Amazon and Target and Costco and Sam's Club, or you can just go to trueclassic.com/politicsgirl. I know you're going to find something for everyone on your list. So update your wardrobe and save at trueclassic.com/politicsgirl. That's trueclassic.com/politicsgirl. What do you think is going on here? Because what they released is not what they are supposed to release, and they are clearly not complying with the law.
They missed their deadline. That's one thing for sure. You know, they've already missed their deadline. They were supposed to release all the files on Friday. There's a lot of redactions. We know that a photograph was pulled that was of President Trump, and then under pressure, they had to put it back into the files. Even just the ordering of the pictures by like highlighting Bill Clinton at the top.
They're clearly doing a look over here, Wizard of Oz situation. I mean, the thing is, if people don't understand, the Epstein Transparency Act required the Trump DOJ to release the complete and unredacted Epstein files, to make them publicly available in a downloadable, searchable format, with the only exception for redactions being to protect the identities of the victims, to protect ongoing investigations, and in the case of national security. The redactions were not allowed to protect the identities of the perpetrators. They were not allowed to protect people who might be involved on the periphery and save them from embarrassment. If they did redact anything, they were supposed to have what's called a redaction log, explaining why they redacted the line in the section. They have not done this. They have at least, I think, 95,000 photos from the estate. They have 300 gigabytes of data. They have boxes of physical evidence with tapes and video recordings, which they have stalled on releasing for almost a year. We know that 1,000 FBI agents worked in 24-hour shifts, scrubbing Donald Trump's name from the files. And then they just took another 30 days from when the Epstein Transparency Act was passed. And I can only assume Trump signed it because they were like, it's okay, we got your name out of everything. And then, like you said, the photo that came out in the first dump, they were like, oh shit, we missed this one, and they pulled it. But I mean, what we're looking at is it's just over 1% of what they have. And what they released is completely, if not totally redacted and useless in many parts. And there's no log. The whole thing feels like a fucking joke, if you'll excuse my language. Like, it's an insult to everyone that wants transparency. And it's certainly an insult to all the poor victims that have had to wait and wait and wait.
Absolutely an insult. It's an insult to the American people, too. I mean, they're smart enough to know better than this, I think. And it just creates more questions. The national security loophole is one that I've always thought about because, like, you know, I do think that a part of the reason why Epstein was protected was because of his relationship to Prince Andrew and various other world leaders that he was close with, like Ehud Barak. There are many others. You know, there are just so many like reasons why I think they could argue the national security loophole and maybe use that as a reason to not disclose that he was perhaps an asset. I think ongoing investigations, while we know the president has said that there needs to be an investigation to Democrats tied to Epstein, he's ordered it up. I mean, if that's not the most political thing you've ever heard. The politicization of it is really, really, really gross. And like even the way Caroline Leavitt was like sharing the picture of Bill Clinton in the tub, which is disturbing and wrong. But like the fact that the press secretary for the United States of America is like, this is so cool, huh? We gotcha. It's like, do you not understand how many lives have been broken and damaged from all of this?
Well, they're also trying to create a narrative, right? They have a picture of Bill Clinton and Michael Jackson and Diana Ross, and they've blocked out 3 what are clearly children, implying that they are part of this thing where it's really a picture that a lot of people have seen because it was in a public fundraiser. And the 3 children that are blocked out are 2 of Michael Jackson's children and 1 of Diana Ross's children. Like they were just at an event and they're putting it out there to deliberately muddy the water, which is gross. I know there are at least 16 pictures missing now on Monday when we record this. Further redactions are happening as we speak of what they've already put out. So that means that the DOJ and the FBI are still scrubbing these files even after their release. And I want to just be clear, the American taxpayer is paying for this, right? We are paying for tens of millions of dollars to hide the evidence of our billionaire president's involvement in this and his rich and important friends who have clearly paid to get their names out of this as well. We are paying to help them get away with this, right? Like it is disgusting. It appears to be like what you were saying earlier, the largest sex trafficking, of our time, but it also appears to be the greatest cover up by a president and for a president in U.S. history. It's clearly infected more than a dozen federal agencies, multiple countries, at least 6 presidents have had this kind of come through their justice departments, and it all involves crimes against children. So I just feel like, what in the hell are we doing here? Like, I know that Pam is out here trying to protect Trump, who is clearly involved. And I don't know why we are pretending otherwise at this point. It is sickening. One of the only good things, in my opinion, to come out of Friday's pathetic file dump was that it vindicated a victim named Annie Farmer and her sister Maria, who have been saying since 1996 that they filed a police report and then they spoke to the FBI against Epstein. And since 1996, they have been treated like they were kind of these lying, attention-seeking whores. And the FBI report was in that first dump. And it proves that they did file a report. They did go to the case. They did say what was happening. And yet they were let down over and over again by Clinton's DOJ, George W.'s DOJ, Obama's DOJ, Trump's DOJ, Biden's DOJ. And now we're seeing it again with Trump 2's DOJ. And this is 30 years later, and these girls have had zero justice. But for the very first time, you see that they have been telling the truth the whole time. I saw someone say the other day, across social media platforms, that it's becoming far too obvious that the general public is getting too comfortable with the idea that we're just never going to know, right? That we're never going to find out, that these powerful people are just going to get away with it because that's how the world works. And I just feel like, I don't think we can accept that. I mean, I don't think you can accept that. You knew Virginia. She died because of this, right? Like, these people cannot get away with this. This cannot be what happens. This is not normal politics. We can't accept it as normal politics. We can't say, well, this is just the way the world is. We have to say, if this is the way the world is, then we have to frickin' change it. And it starts right now with accountability.
So I just want to rewind to what you said about Maria Farmer and Annie Farmer. Maria faced threats, like serious threats from Ghislaine Maxwell for going to the FBI. And she was young. She was an artist. She left the city. Her life was completely ruined and derailed from that, for doing the very brave thing of reporting what she saw as a very terrible injustice. And the FBI did nothing, literally nothing. Their job is to protect people. They did nothing. And instead, because she wasn't protected by law enforcement, Ghislaine Maxwell threatened her life. So I think we need to step back and really not just think about this as like the Department of Justice, some big agency, but law enforcement that we actually pay as taxpayers to protect us. And they did not do that at any point. And you're right. It's been multiple administrations. I have wondered if, the Democratic administrations didn't care to dig back into this, because A, it makes just the entire Justice Department look bad, regardless of who owns it. And B, he was a Democrat. He spent a lot of time with Democrats. He donated to Democrats. And some of the men that, Virginia accused of assault, like Senator Bill Richardson, Senator George Mitchell, they're Democrats, And so Bill Clinton obviously is a good friend of Epstein, and Trump was a Democrat when he was friends with Epstein. So it's like, I wondered if it was partisan too at the time. And I mean, to me, I'm like, I'm not a partisan. I'm just a journalist, but I've always been suspicious of both administrations, of both parties when it comes to this. I don't think either are clean. I mean, particularly the Republicans now, because they have the power, there is public pressure, and they should be doing the right thing. But at the same time, this was something that the Biden administration didn't care to go anywhere near. When Biden was president, I did write a piece for Politico magazine trying to explain like how Epstein was able to build his pyramid. But at that point, I mean, even the podcasts that I released, even though, they were produced by Adam McKay was one of the producers of Broken, Jeffrey Epstein. He's an Academy Award winner. So is Kevin Messick. I mean, so these are really great pieces of journalism that advanced the story, got new reporting on the record from Jeffrey Epstein's houseman. And the public was less interested at the time. I think they were overwhelmed by COVID. Power of the Maxwells, though, did really, really well. It became a hit internationally. But there was less interest. But it doesn't mean that just because the public isn't demanding it, that they shouldn't have done more.
Yeah, but it's not even like the public doesn't need to know about internal crimes. It's why it keeps going back to me that it's an op. It's a blackmailing operation that maybe the American government was well versed in, and they didn't want the general public to know that this is how they were, doing their business.
I think that is still what it is.
Yeah, so do I. I really do. I think it's gross, and I think it doesn't matter who is involved, and I don't care if it makes our government look bad. I don't care if it makes the Israeli government look bad. I don't care if it makes the British government look bad. I don't care what Democrats are involved. Like at this point, however you've been doing your business, if this is how we were doing things, I'm going to photograph you with a young girl, or I'm going to give you a young girl, or whatever we are seeing in these heinous photos coming out of Epstein Island. Whatever was going on, if our government was turning a blind eye or involved in it because they were getting something out of it in a blackmail operation, it still must be uncovered, because what we're looking at right now is a deliberate cover up. We cannot trust Kash Patel's FBI. Dan Bongino's already leaving the job. We cannot trust Pam Bondi. I mean, it's actually possible she's involved in some way. You see all those pictures of her as a young lawyer in Florida with Trump and all those people. But so many people must know something now. I wonder so often, why is no one coming forward with names? I mean, you know names, but you don't name them. The victims know names. They don't name them. Bill Clinton himself, they're trying to tie it all to him right now. He was clearly in a ton of pictures that they released on Friday because they're trying to spin a narrative and blame him. But I feel like if he's involved, then send him to trial. But if he didn't do anything criminal, but he knows who did, then he should be coming forward at this point. You know what I mean? Like you've said, a lot of the perpetrators and their names, and they haven't come out yet.
I mean, there are a lot of names that have come out.
I know, but people don't know for sure. Like you're not like, it was this guy.
No. They're in court documents. They're in depositions. If you believe a sworn testimony from a victim, then you should trust those names, right?
And where would people find those names if they were curious? Because I don't think people even know where to look anymore or what to trust.
I mean, if you looked at Virginia Giuffre's deposition, you would see that some of the names are unredacted. Some are redacted, but some are unredacted. And you can see the names. Like I said, Bill Richardson is in there, Senator Mitchell. Who else is in there that's unredacted?
It's hard for you because you know names that are not unredacted. That's tough for you.
I have to look at it. Yeah, I have to look at it.
I just think, why are we all waiting for the Trump administration to do the right thing when we know that they won't? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's really, I know that the judges in New York right now are deciding what to do with the redactions on these depositions. We'll see. Maybe they will release these details of a civil case without redactions. But I do think it would be really illuminating if that happened. It's too bad because Virginia's not alive right now, to tell her story. I mean, she did on my podcast, but even then, I mean, she accused Alan Dershowitz, Prince Andrew. Everyone's like, there are no other men. It's like, have you not been listening? I mean, there was a Jane Doe that accused President Trump that went under the name Katie Johnson. She withdrew her complaint. According to Michael Cohen, he worked on another case with a quote unquote infant Jane Doe. I don't know anything about this, but I've been trying to find it that involved President Trump and them tracking down the address of this Jane Doe, which I think is probably considered intimidation.
Yeah. Which we know is part of the deal.
Yeah. So it's just like there have been a lot of names. I mean, look at the fact that a lot of men have had to resign from financial institutions.
I mean, look, so you know that Steve Bannon's sitting on a ton of evidence. We know Michael Wolff is sitting on a ton of evidence. Like, I just feel like it certainly seems like the right time to be a powerful predator. I have to tell you that. Like, why would anyone come forward now to tell a story about someone who is a powerful man under this Justice Department in this world, watching how all this is played out? The whole thing feels so sickening and unacceptable to me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the truth is that there is lawfare, and it's being, displayed by the president suing the Wall Street Journal for, I think, $100 million $10 billion. Sorry, something ridiculous like that, for just publishing the birthday card. We're in a world right now where people are just firing off insane lawsuits at each other, and it protects the powerful.
Yeah, it does. It protects the powerful and the wealthy. And honestly, anyone who wrote a birthday card to Jeffrey Epstein, anyone who did one of those drawings of Jeffrey with young girls around him, or of bodies, or of our beautiful secrets, like Trump said, every single one of those people should be under surveillance. They should be being looked into. If you were that close that you did a birthday card for Jeffrey, you know what I mean? So like, what do you think happens next? Does the DOJ just get away with not complying with the law? Is the law really dead in America? Because I mean, look, how many women have to come forward and accuse even our president himself of sexual assault? I mean, the Epstein estate pictures that were released by the Democrats through the congressional committee, they literally included pictures of Trump branded condoms for sale, that said extra huge with lots of U's. So it's obviously an inside joke for more than one person for there to be Trump branded condoms there. And then you consider other pictures that were in that same release that include violent sex toys and a dentist chair that you could be strapped to, and young girls' bodies with the words from the book Lolita written on their skin, and ball gags and masks, which can be fine if you're two consenting adults, but are heinous if they are used by grown men on young girls against their will. The whole thing is so sick, and it just cannot be something we just move past because this is how politics works.
I agree with you. The only way to continue to keep this alive is to either hold congressional hearings. I've heard that Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie have considered holding Attorney General Pam Bondi in contempt.
Yeah, they're drawing up the papers today.
Yeah, it could lead to possible impeachment. I mean, I know it might be hard to actually prosecute her in this administration, but that doesn't preclude her from future prosecution. Although, Trump might be able to give her a pardon.
I'm glad that Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie are doing this. I hope the Democrats get behind them. I still hope there are some Republicans who see this heinous story as just too much and a bridge too far. But, all we have right now is 1% of these 300 gigabytes of information. Pam herself said the files were on her desk, and then she said she didn't have the files. And then she said they were still going through the files and they had to keep them in because of the victims. Epstein was trafficking these girls to no one, but even without the files, we have the victims, we have photographs, we have that birthday book that you were talking about, and everything in this should be looked at, but clearly it's not going to be looked at by Trump's corrupt DOJ, right? So I feel like at this point, it's the court of public opinion until we can find our way to real justice. But in the court of public opinion, people can actually be held accountable until we get a chance to take back the rule of law again. What would you have us watch for moving forward?
I'm curious to see how the rest of the dumps go. What is the narrative around each dump? I'm curious to see what we find out about how much they're redacting from President Trump, what is redacted about him. If anything slips through by accident, I think we have to look out for mess ups because, as we know, leadership at the DOJ is not the greatest. And I think, we'll have a better picture of just how grossly mismanaged this was. And then I would have to assume it would be the next Congress because there's Republican leadership right now. But in the following Congress, hopefully they'll have hearings and really do a proper investigation into this.
Yeah. And hopefully the Democrats aren't too afraid to go after their own people, because at the end of the day, this isn't political, it's criminal. And we need to keep that in mind. Thank you so much for talking to us about this today. Please tell people how they can follow along with your work, because you're doing so much good work, and the best place to find you moving forward.
Thanks. You can go to tarapalmeri.com. Only one I in Palmeri, TARAPALMERI.com. Sign up for the red letter. It's my newsletter. It's how you get exclusive reporting straight to your inbox, and how you can support my independent journalism. And then you can go to my podcast, The Tara Palmeri Show, which you can watch on YouTube or listen to wherever you listen to your podcasts.
At the end of the day, these girls deserve justice, and we're not going to get it unless we are like a dog with a bone with this. And I think we have to just show these people, these rich and powerful men, that it's not going away just because they wanted to or because they paid for it to.
Precisely. I think you nailed that on the head. Can't buy justice.
Can't buy justice, baby. I mean, you can, but we're going to stop it.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
You too. So that was Tara Palmeri reminding us that we can't just let this go. The Justice Department and the FBI are currently in complete violation of the law when it comes to the Epstein Transparency Act. They are seriously hoping that we will just embrace our nihilism and give up ever knowing what happened, because deep down we accept that the rich and the powerful live under different rules and they're just going to get away with it. Well, that's unacceptable to me, to Tara, and I hope it is unacceptable to you. The American government is clearly engaged in what is potentially the largest cover-up in American history, and it's about sex trafficking women and children. If we ever want to be a good country again, we have to never let this go. I want to thank Tara for joining us today, and you for caring enough about justice to be here. Happy holidays to you and yours. Until next week, PG out. Would you prefer to get this podcast ad-free, delivered directly to your inbox along with my kitchen rants? Then please consider becoming a member of PoliticsGirl Premium by going to PoliticsGirl.com and signing up. If you are already a premium member of this podcast, thank you for your support. And if you're not a member, please consider being a patron of my work. Mainstream news is almost a joke at this point. Look what just happened with CBS canceling the 60 Minutes expose on CCOT. If you want the real truth these days, it is essential to support those of us out here still bringing it to you, to support independent media. There is a link to sign up in the bio of this episode, but also on PoliticsGirl.com. And as always, please like and share these podcasts so we can grow our audience. The more people who have access to this kind of information, the better. As always, thank you for your time and support. The Politics Girl podcast is written and performed by me, Lee McGowan, and produced and edited by Happy Warrior Entertainment. All rights reserved.